This week, our Truth in Politics panel is looking at some of the political missteps this week, and there were a few. Our distinguished panelists are here. Carrie Benjo, the editor of the Eagle Feather News. She's joining us from Regina. And Egon Sinclair, a columnist at the Winnipeg Free Press, who's joining us from Wisconsin. Carrie and Egon, great to have you with us. Carrie, let's start with you. One of the announcements by the Manitoba government this week ahead of the upcoming election that has been roundly criticized was the announcement on the MMIWG license plates. The province said it's part of its ongoing commitment to reconciliation and support of MMIWG2S issues. What did you think of this announcement?
I was so disgusted. It was laughable, you know, this ongoing commitment to missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's okay for them to capitalize on the issue. I see it as a money grab. I see it as something that they want to commit as long as it's nice, as long as it's pretty, as long as it's not real. And as long as it's not concrete. Yeah, it's nice to put some artwork on some license plate and say that's their commitment. You know what? Their real commitment is talking to the families, finding out what they need, and maybe making some efforts to do something to rectify this situation that they're in right now. Announcing that they're gonna make a license plate. It does nothing.
Egon, you know, this was something that has been in the works for a while. We knew it was going to be happening. Bernadette Smith and NDP MLA brought forward this, but was this pretty bad timing?
Yeah, I posted on social media that whoever was the timing on this one is absolutely atrocious. It's poorly thought out in terms of, you know, especially considering the issue around the landfill and the failure of the province to search. This was in a long time coming, this particular project. Manitoba has over a dozen license plates that are fundraisers for different organizations, things like Basketball Manitoba, things like other service groups throughout the city, Humane Society. And so this was an attempt by the provincial government to do a fundraiser to support families of murdered, missing Indigenous women and girls. So the sentiment is good. It was actually driven by a person who is involved, Bernadette Smith, as well as the members of the NDP who are also involved in this as well. But it's just so poorly timed out. Now, I mean, who's going to want one of these license plates? It's absolutely absurd, because what you're doing is you're affiliating with a province that has refused time and time again to take action on this issue, not even refusing to implement the calls to justice from the Murder, Missing Indigenous Women and Girls Inquiry. So, I mean, it's absolutely absurd to release it at this time, and whoever is in the communications department in the province just has to shake, you know, this person really shouldn't be working in a communications job.
Moving to federal politics, Carrie, the new Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations made his first official visit this week to Whitecap Dakota Nation in Saskatchewan, where they re-announced something that was first announced months ago, back in May. When he was asked about the landfill issue, he said they were making every attempt to visit Winnipeg as soon as possible. Was this a misstep for the new minister to fly over Winnipeg to do a re-announcement?
I think right now he's looking for easy places to visit, someplace where there isn't controversy, someplace that, you know, he's a new minister. I'm thinking he's trying to find places where he's accepted, you know, like bringing the good news. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with Indigenous issues, it can't be all roses. You know, there's a lot of hard issues, a lot of hard topics that he as a minister is going to have to address, and him sidestepping it and not addressing it full on, it's disappointing. I was really hoping that maybe he would be the one to come forward right away and, you know, do something, you know, create some sort of conversation so that something can actually happen. everything is at a standstill, and I just see it getting tougher and tougher. And I think there's going to be something dramatic happening soon, because both sides are refusing to come to the table and meet and talk and work something out.
Niigaan, the APTN asked the new minister at that Whitecap announcement about the landfill, and he said, quote, that he's reviewing all the available information and that he looks forward to working with the families to come to the right appropriate resolution. Seems like a stark contrast from the way former Minister Mark Miller was handling this, no?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Miller, well known for having pretty strong relationships with communities, also was on the side of various different political groups that were calling things, using the terms like genocide and so on. We have to remember that the new minister's only been in the job for a week, but is also a very strong party loyalist. I mean, I wrote a column about how this minister has experienced genocide in his own life in the Tamils of Sri Lanka. And so perhaps we have a more sensitive minister, a person of color, a person who's experienced colonialism. In fact, he talked about that in his opening speech. But the fact is that he does need to make a very big splash very quickly, because Mark Miller was so popular. And if you don't put your stamp on this particular portfolio, what's going to happen is that you're going to be seen by Indigenous communities as being too close to the Liberal government, which frankly has been stepping away from Indigenous issues for quite some time, putting less energy into it, particularly with a potential election coming next year. The cabinet shuffle has indicated that perhaps we're seeing an election sooner rather than later. And he has to put, as Carrie pointed out, some kind of stamp on this job very quickly, and perhaps meeting with the families about the landfill issue. I mean, we're still waiting to hear from what the federal government's going to do about the feasibility report in Manitoba. We've heard from the province who said they're not going to take action on it, but they did say that they will listen to what the federal government has to say, and it may just be that this minister is going to take action on that.
Carrie Niigaan, we'll have to leave it there. Appreciate you being with us as always.
Miigwech.